Hello, my name is Uroš Rudolf. I'm from Slovenia, and this is my 8th year in Poland. This is a talk on entering level design in Polish AAA as a foreigner with no experience. It's based on my personal adventures and misadventures between 2016 and 19, when I was just freshly arriving to Poland and having no clue on how to continue. This is a talk for anyone perhaps trying to get into games or anyone trying to help someone to basically get into the games. I work at Techland in Wrocław. I'm just about to reach my 5 years there. I'm a level designer, although in practice I'm leaning heavily into technical level design and quest design. I'm also working very closely with narration. And basically, I spend a lot of my time scripting and setting up quests. For the agenda, we are going to have a quick look into why would I even think about coming to Poland. I will tell about an anecdote from Digital Dragons 6 years ago that changed my career path, and then we will transfer to practical topics of getting to level design. I will talk about QA to LD. We will lightly touch on portfolios. There will be topic on networking and some general soft skills and good to know points that helped me when I figured them out, although they would have helped me if I had figured them out a little bit sooner. So first, why did I turn to games, and how did Poland ever cross my mind? Back when I was growing up, I used to play hours and hours of Settlers, Prince of Persia, Elder Scrolls, Command & Conquer, Total War, GTA, and those games for me served as an escape. They inspired me, and in turn, I guess at some point I wanted to make games to kind of invoke these feelings of perhaps escape and finding refuge for other people. And so a dream of working creatively in the industry was born. So the dream was born, but what to actually do with it, I had no idea. That is because Slovenia, my country, has an interesting legacy in terms of video games. For example, Arxel Tribe company, it was known for adventure games they did back in the 2000s. And there is the now defunct Zootfly with Marlow Briggs and the Mask of Death. The industry in the actual country is small. As per data from 2019, about 400 people are part of it across about 25 studios, with those studios often focusing on support mobile games and casino games. Also, take a look at this is something that always comes up as an interesting thing. So Slovenia has 2 million people, and Warsaw also has 2 million people. So as someone coming from a small village in Slovenia to massive Warsaw at some point, that was quite a shock, even though I didn't record it as a shock at the time. So I wanted to work in big games, and I figured out that, yes, there was basically not much of a chance to actually do that at any point if I stayed in Slovenia. So because of 2015's release of The Witcher and Dying Light, Poland came on my radar. And eventually, due to my involvement with street theater in Maribor, this is the city where I was studying, I found out about European Voluntary Service, about which I'm going to tell more a little bit towards the end. And with European Voluntary Service is basically how I ended up and got a foothold in Poland. That is by moving and volunteering for a year in a social center up north in north of the country in Gdynia. On the side note, here are 2 relatively recent titles from Slovenia. There are of course more of them, but these 2 are the most recognizable when I talk with people here in Poland. That is Talking Tom and Friends mobile franchise from Outfit 7. This one is more for the children, and then there is Mordhau from Triternian, which is not for children. So, when I arrived to Poland, I was 25 years old, and one core thing didn't change. So I switched the country, and one core thing didn't change. I had no idea of how to actually get into working in video games. Neither did I have any idea on what to actually do in video games. I knew that I wanted to do something with quests and gameplay and things like that, but honestly, I had no idea at the time that something like specialization, like level design, actually exists. So as you see, I had like really no clue. But here's the thing. So the games that I played when I was growing up, they gave me a hint of how to get started. And it's actually a hint that is useful in general life, as well as in basically trying to break into video games. And that is, they did that with quest objectives. Because what do quest objectives do? They break large tasks into smaller bits. Because an epic quest may be about saving the world, but the first objective of that quest is about getting out of bed in the morning. So the start of me trying to break in was not encouraging. I was trying to reach out to companies and got no answers at all. So because I was getting absolutely no results, I started going to game conventions and trying to get like direct contact with people, because I at the time didn't understand why I wouldn't be able to even get any sort of reply. And as part of that direct contact was eventual job in QA. And it's a good thing that I found that job in QA, because it was right before the end of my volunteering in Gdynia, and if I didn't get a job, I would probably very likely have to return to Slovenia with my dream dying, unfortunately. But fortunately, I did found it. So we will return to QA later, but for now, let's skip all that and jump to Digital Dragons 2018. That's the last time. That's actually the first time, not the last time, when I was at Digital Dragons. So that was 6 years ago, which makes me feel kind of old, but that's okay. And at the time, so in 2018, I've been in Poland for about 2 years. I was working as outsourcing manual QA tester with a starter level design portfolio. So I kind of started figuring out things by then. And I was trying to figure out how to get into actual level design. So what I will describe now is the event that basically corrected the course for my career. So here I was at Digital Dragons 2018, out in the main hall, probably eating a cookie and leaning against the wall and observing the Techland promotion stand across the stairway, that big stairway that we all know. And I had a phone in my hand, and there was a set of Google images on that phone, and on those images was a person. And I was really nervous. And in my backpack, there was a notepad with really bad sketches and an old tablet with pictures of my portfolio. So previously that day, I went and spoke to representatives from Techland at that promo stand and asked if there were any level designers in the area from them, because I would like to talk about my portfolio. And guess what? There was one, just not there at the moment. I got their name, and I made sure to write it down because I'm terrible with names, and I made my retreat not far away. And as you can understand by now, I had a cunning plan. And if you're feeling the adoring fan from Oblivion vibes, yes, a 27-year-old bearded guy camping in a hallway and staring and waiting for someone with a picture of them on his phone is something I would consider to be creepy nowadays. So yeah, try to avoid it if you can. There are better ways of meeting people. So eventually, Quasi, that is also my current boss, he appeared in the area. I double-checked the reference Google search pictures on my phone, and yes, I was 99% positive, target confirmed, time for action. So I made double sure that everything as it was supposed to be, even the tablet battery was charged at 100%. Then I made my approach, and I was thinking, I can't mess this up. I've messed up enough with nothing much to show for it. This is it. Remember, I was at that point in Poland for 1.5 years, which in the scope of things isn't that long, but like having all that 1.5 years and really not achieving much is not a great thing to feel. So I patiently waited my turn, because of course I wasn't the only one who wanted to talk. And then I explained that I wanted to get into level design and that I'm looking for feedback on the portfolio. And I brought up the really bad drawings that I had in my notebook and screenshots of what I've done with the Skyrim creation kit. I presented the ideas behind layouts, point of interest, enemy setups, gameplay graphs that I've set up and how they are structured and how the levels guide the player. Importantly, when I was done, I went quiet. And this silence is also a thing that I'm going to bring up at a later point. Yeah, but it was important that I went silent at that point. And then, for the first time ever, yes, this is a twist. Usually we get something negative at this point, but this was a twist. Because for the first time ever, I got a professional feedback. And it ranged from questions on why this, why that, things that I've forgotten, things that could have been done better, things that I didn't even know I could have done, possible references. It all made sense. And after I returned home to Warsaw, which was my home at the time, I went on like this mad-focused work bender for like 4 months, and I created 3 major projects, meaning portfolio pieces. One in Skyrim Creation Kit, one in Unreal Engine, and one in Dying Light developer tools. So I now had a direction, but it still took more than a year before I joined Techland in mid-2019. When I joined Techland, I was nearing 29 years old, and so if looking at how long it took for me to actually get from having no experience and no portfolio to landing a junior position at Techland, it was a bit more than 3 years. So it's been a wild ride ever since, but now let's turn around and get to the core of this talk, actually getting an LD job in AAA as a foreigner. And the thing that I want to put out, basically, those 3 years, 3 years is, even though it may not sound that long, it is a long thing. So getting into AAA is a long game. And it's also very much a co-op game. And so here are the tips and lessons learned. So first thing I want to jump is entering the industry through quality assurance. Trying to start with no experience in games in any role is a hard-to-break vicious cycle. And the experience is needed to get in, but the only way to get the experience is being on the inside. And quality assurance has been a way in for many people, and it has been a way in for me too. I spent 2 years as an outsourcing functional QA tester at QLock and about 3 months in studio QA at CI Games before I transferred to level design there. So now when we look at the QA, so quality assurance as a whole, it is a profession. Experience requirements for junior positions, especially in outsourcing sector, are low. What I want to point to is that QA is a good way to start for foreigners with no experience for just getting into games. And also, if they are a natural speaker, they may even be able to tap into the localization QA. I mean, natural speakers of a language that is more important, not important, but more wider used than, for example, Slovenian, because that is something that I was not able to do. So, so QA being a profession, being a specialization, I think this is the thing that carries with it certain weight. Because someone being a QA, and this weight is something that I notice with people, and I have been noticing for basically since I've started trying to get into AAA. And basically what I'm talking about is someone being a QA and doing a QA job well doesn't mean that they will automatically at some point become a designer. It means that they are a QA specialist. So if they want to move to a different field like level design, they need to have a relevant portfolio, network with the right people, and make their intentions clear, improve and keep their skills relevant. Returning to that Google Images story from Digital Dragons 2018, that was about a year and a half into my QA story, and see what I did back then. I had a portfolio ready. It was not a good portfolio. It was it was more of an outline of a portfolio, but I reached out to a professional, to the professional in the field that I wanted to get into, and I basically got feedback. I was clear about my intentions, and from that feedback, then I learned and applied the knowledge to improve actually my portfolio, and it worked. Now I'm going to jump to actual beginner portfolios, but first I want to say that I will not talk about how to make a portfolio exactly. I will point to some points, because portfolio as a blank space, blank canvas, is something that we have total freedom with, and by no means do I want to limit people with what to do with that canvas. This is because if we want to become a level designer, it's for us to design the thing that we are basically placing into that blank spot, and that's basically it. As level designers, we work with game engines. They are tools, and the best way to show that we have good command of a tool is to show what we've built with it, and have an answer to the question on why we have built it in a certain way. I once had a chat with someone who said that they won't make a portfolio, that whoever eventually hires them will teach them. And I'm not going to say that exceptions don't happen, but in general, this doesn't work. So why? Because what happens when we join a studio as a junior level designer is that we get some sort of onboarding. And the quality of this onboarding may be is going to depend. It's going to depend on who's doing it, how much experience they have with it, how much time they have to actually spend on it, and how much time to spend on it, not just to spend on it, but how much time they have to prepare for it. And as someone who does, I think in altogether in the last 2 years, I did about 10 onboardings across open world team, quest design team, and level design team, and I can definitely say so. As you know, I go with the new onboardees through the whole system that, for example, I prepared for them. After that, it's like waving them goodbye, farewell, have good luck on your travels on the actual tasks that you are doing, that you are going to start doing now on the team, because that's what happens. So we get some of this time on onboarding, and after the onboarding, we are on our own. And the important thing is, just getting into AAA as a junior doesn't mean that we are automatically, again, we are talking about something that would happen automatically. We are not automatically going to stay there. So what matters is that we are able to do the work. And we are only going to stay there if we are able to do it. Right. So basically, the better we are prepared, the faster we can jump to the actual tasks. The dark thought that went through my mind occasionally, as I was working on my own portfolio, when I was investing all this time and basically trying all the different things, reading and searching for references, was so the thought was, like, what happens if I fail? Because this is a real risk. It doesn't even have to be just because of me. It can be that a company falls, projects fail, mass layouts are a thing, and things just don't work out. I would have to return to Slovenia, and basically anything that I've invested would be for nothing. And this is a real risk that everyone deals with in the way they can, because as we've seen recently, all these things are a thing. It's scary, and it's something that we either accept or don't. There is no better way to say it. So returning to the topic of making a portfolio, having no idea on how to do it is a menacing task. There is infinite possibilities. On a blank canvas, and everyone learns in their own way. For example, I at the start, and I think that is something that happens quite often, is that people are, including me, are trying with like those big tutorials, books that lead like step by step on how to actually make a game. And this never worked for me. I lost interest. And only once I turned to actually executing my own ideas, that's when I actually started to make progress. And that is to figure it out, look at pieces of tutorials and search for information only if I got stuck. Then play it, adjust it, get feedback, understand what changes matter, implement them, expand, and learn. This way, the motivation changes from I need to learn something because this tutorial is telling me to learn it, to I want to do this and I want to figure it out, so I'm learning it. And I'm reaching out if I need support and feedback. So, and you know what taught me the most about creating a portfolio, and even better, what taught me that I actually wanted to be a level designer, meaning to actually teach me what level design is. It was the interviews and tasks that I did for games companies. And I failed most of those tasks and didn't get much feedback, if any at all, for them, but it was enough to notice a pattern. And so it was a pattern on where to steer my work. And so I also, at the time, as I was like slowly improving what I was doing and trying to figure out how to do the portfolio, I was starting to get a feeling that just having a good portfolio won't cut it. But more on that in a moment. So, in general, a starter portfolio will show a good grasp of basics. It doesn't have to be something new. It can be inspired and modded into a game that we like. My portfolio, for example, was largely created in tools like Skyrim Creation Kit, Shadowrun Editor, Dying Light 1 developer tools. And the gameplay and quests that I've created were based on existing game mechanics. Nowadays, modding Dying Light 2 with developer tools is definitely an option. And I know for a fact that a couple of modders got a job at Techland as level designers recently. Here, I want to jump in with a quick. It's not an ad, but it is a thing that I've always, ever since I found it, I wanted to share it. And it's a great resource for level designers in general on any stage of career. And it's a sort of a resource learning database. It's managed by Mateusz Piaskiewicz, who had a talk yesterday at this same time. And he's been collecting references to articles, videos, podcasts, and more for years. So there are like hundreds of different articles linked on this site, and it's like partially curated. I first found this webpage, and it helped me immensely as I was learning and trying to figure things out. And then a couple of years later, I was actually lucky enough to have Mateusz as my mentor for a short time. And so I really recommend this page, leveldesign.org, and please go and check it. It's free. Let's now jump to actually doing a quick portfolio checklist. And it's not going to be just a checklist for how, and as I said previously, I'm not going to talk about how to do it. It's just like a couple of points. And also it's not going to be just like what should be there on the technical side. There's also going to be a little bit about actual presentation of the portfolio, because this is a big thing. But more about that in a second. So, first of all, you want your projects to work. No matter what major blockers and bugs should be fixed and should not. Like once we, for example, have a mentor that we are talking with, make sure that things work, don't waste their time. Or if you don't know how to fix it, like come with that, not with look at my project, it's great, and then it's not working, go with like, look, I'm having issues with this, can you please like help me take a look at it. Next thing, visuals aren't that important, but the project that you're doing should still look good and clear, even if done with gray boxes. And then make sure to focus on the right things and managing the scale. It's very easy, especially for me. For me, it was the same. So as I was starting out, my projects would go all over the place. It would be those infinite things that I would never be able to finish. But what you want to do with the portfolio is have a couple of pieces. And those couple of pieces, it's great if they are kind of finished. Another thing is, as level designers, we aren't only responsible for level layouts. We do AI setups, quest scripting, dialogue scripting, scripting AI behavior, adding collectibles, creating and placing encounters, creating combat spaces. The list goes on and on and on. So one thing that we also have to kind of figure out as we move towards trying to get into AAA is what the company that we are applying at understands as level design, or what the team that we are trying to join is doing. Because different companies, even teams will sometimes have different understanding of the specialization. And this doesn't only work for level design. This is across the whole spectrum of the specializations. It's also a good idea to actually adjust the documentation so that it will support this, so what we are actually trying to go after. As I was saying, now we are jumping to the presentation part, because guess what? Because besides the actual tests, for example, that you do for the companies when you are trying to recruit to get in, people will very rarely actually play what you create. Because most of the people don't really have time to look into these things, and this is coming from experience. That's how it looked. Basically, I would be sending things out, and it would be like, great, so what now? I don't have time to do anything with that. And mostly it would be just like ghosting. That's how it is. But so, if we want feedback, we want well-prepared documentation that can be evaluated quickly. So a couple of points on that. So first of all, we want to show that we are organized. So documentation with a set of screenshots that represent the most important part of the level, top-down view, flow graphs, short descriptions of main locations, NPC schedules, if it's an open-world game, encounters, and tools used and any relevant links, also making sure that those links work. It's also a great idea to have screenshots on a device, locally on a device, because I once had a case where I really wanted to get feedback from someone at some conference, and we were in the underground. I had the images on Google Drive, and of course it didn't load, and I lost that opportunity. Another thing is creating videos, so recording what we do, and in case of portfolio, it's best to upload it to YouTube. If anyone is scared about the content getting lost, the YouTube has this ability to basically have hidden videos and only show them when having a direct link to them. So another thing is videos like that tend to get long. It's a good idea to add well-defined chapters. So also links to specific chapters in a video in documentations are also a bonus. Before we jump to networking, so in 2 minutes, my scheduled LinkedIn post on my samples of my portfolios from 2018, so the state that they were in 2018 is going to appear on LinkedIn, and I want people to basically be able to view it. So in 2 minutes, it's going to appear, and you are welcome to take a look at it and basically check how things looked back then, and look at things that basically helped me to get a foothold with mentors. I also don't want to say do things like that. It's more like do things better than I did back then. So now on to networking. Portfolio is something from my experience that I can say is a basis, especially if coming from outside the country. So why? Because everyone talks, but once we actually show something that we've created and it works, that's impactful. I say that because I first tried the cold approach, basically trying without having anything and no one cared. Why would they? I mean, I was a guy from far away, didn't speak the language at the time, didn't have anything to show, and I could just run away as soon as things got ugly. And then, once I figured out that basically people needed something that would entice them, in a sense, so that would awaken their interest, I started doing simple creations in Unity, and people really did get interested. It was kind of a little experiment, and they got interested, but that was for about 10 seconds, and until they figured out that it was just a simple, incomplete mess that didn't work all the time. And my creations, eventually, step by step, improved. Did people care? No. And with time, I discovered why they didn't care, and that was because I wasn't selling myself, to the right connections. And this is the thing that is not that obvious, meaning that we want to have the audience that we want to be showing things to, because we can be throwing our stuff to everyone to see, but most of the people will not really care, and it's too general for anyone to catch on, really. But if we actually reach out to people that will care, because perhaps at some point they will want to use this knowledge as part of solving some task, meaning that perhaps they will be offering a job to us at some point. So that's what we want. We want to define the target audience. This is the key when having a portfolio and trying to get into games. So the people that actually care, I call them unofficial mentors. We can call them mentors, doesn't matter. Those are people who consistently see the value that we bring and how well we work with feedback that we received from them. And perhaps at some point they may be looking to actually try to recruit us. Of course, that's the best possible option. But first of all, we need to have materials that we consider really good. 1 or 2 well-prepared projects will do the trick. And also, after making the contact, after creating this simple relationship, it's a good idea to keep impressing, keep the action going, and try to, of course, do as much as we can with the feedback we receive. Another thing is, important thing is, even when having a defined target audience, don't cut corners, meaning talk directly to people that we want to be in contact with. Don't use middlemen. For example, in my case, at some point, I had a guy who was working in 3D models, and he was because I met him at a conference, and he was the person that I was, basically, he was accessible to me at the time, and I tried to basically have him pass my portfolio to a quest designer, and it never worked out. I don't know why exactly. In any case, middlemen, cut them out. Talk directly to level designer, quest designers, or anything, any profession that you want to be a part of. Third thing is, some people just aren't interested in supporting, or they make promises and just don't deliver. Ghosting happens. That's okay. Move on. It's not a point to have one mentor. It's a good idea to expand and have a couple of them, which of course drags along some consequences, but that's the reality. Once we do find someone that feels right, always send work that is ready to be reviewed. Don't waste their time. Present in easy-to-analyze way, and add a couple of pictures. And the clearer, the more focused the presentation, the better the chance for something to come out of it. As I've mentioned a couple of times now a mentor may be able to recommend you for a job, but the thing is, even if your portfolio is the best of the best, and even if your presentation is exactly on point, as someone who is just trying to get in, you very likely still won't get the job if there are no openings for junior positions at the company. So what I can recommend from my own experience is patience and spreading the network, having a couple of people that you can kind of impress from time to time with your work and be able to show them what you can do and how your skills are growing. Another thing is social lives and stable relationships. I dropped everything in Slovenia and moved to a new country, and it's hard for foreigners, especially those that are introverts, to actually create new meaningful connections. Like I dropped everything, like literally, including my own family, parents and brother and so on. So I was kind of starting from nothing, also in that field, and that is just one more thing that kind of adds to the pressure, because we are social creatures. And this type of thing can also lead to basically additional options, yes, for burning out. One thing first thing that I wanted to add here is that if we actually stick to the plan of following through with our dreams, the people around us may not like that, and they will leave, or we must leave, and the timing can be very unfortunate. In my case, I have a special achievement in this area, and that is getting dumped twice. So right before the end of the year, and right after I got rejected by a company where I really thought I would have a chance, I also lost a romantic partner, and I had to go through the whole holiday season basically totally alone in a foreign country with some really dark thoughts. And so that happened, and then the next year exactly the same thing happened with a different company and a different person. And things like that change people. Yes. But it's for me it was all part of the kind of rebuilding myself. The next thing is money and time. Key resources, be careful not to overextend, and learn to respect your own boundaries, and if you don't know what they are, figure it out. Next thing is, I had a big fear of missing out. For example, I wouldn't go for vacation because I would, there was always a chance that I would miss that juicy option. Perhaps some job would come up and I would be able to apply for it. It didn't matter in the end. Go for that vacation. One less option for the burnout to take effect. And as for the burnout, exposing ourselves to constant stress on both life and work, it just leads to it. There is no way around it unless some people perhaps don't. It definitely did lead to burnout for me, especially as we get older. And it's not fun, and I really want to stress this, it's not something to be proud of, because we have a culture of basically saying, I burnt out, yes, I'm the best ever. No, it's not. So taking care of ourselves is a skill, and this skill doesn't come by default. It's something that has to be learned. I also wanted to throw in a couple of points on soft skills, and good to know. First thing is learn at least basic negotiation. I had a case when I was just starting out in 2016. The time was just before Christmas, and I got a potential juicy job thing, and I had to do a test for it. And what happened is I said immediately, yes, I'm going to do it. But the thing is, first of all, I didn't have a computer on which I could run the engine in which I would have to do it, to do the actual test. And I have never done anything in that particular editor ever. So first of all, I had to organize the computer. Second of all, I had to burn through the whole New Year and Christmas and so on, because this test had 3 weeks to do it, and I invested so much, and in the end I didn't even get any feedback, because it was the end product was so terrible. And the worst thing is, which I can see now, of course, that if I only said, hey guys, I need some time to be able to prepare for this proper, perhaps things would go differently. So that's the thing. Like even thing like that is a negotiation, and that it was missing for me. And I can really say like it could change things for me at that point. And I just didn't know it at the time. Another thing is, at jobs interviews, I had a habit of answering a question, and then when people didn't answer immediately, I would babble. Babbling leaves a really bad impression, and that's where it comes in. That's where that point about going silent after talking to my future mentor comes in. So I went silent after I told them about my portfolio, after they were still thinking about how to respond to all that info dump that I just dropped on them. Because if I didn't know this thing about babbling, I would just keep on going, and it probably would lead to, at some point, getting ghosted. Another thing is European voluntary service. As I was mentioning, this is the thing that eventually brought me into Poland, let me find a foothold in Poland. And what happened is, basically, this is not a company, but an organization on the level of European Union that lets people under 30 to travel to European countries and work there and live there for up to a year. I can definitely highly recommend it, especially if trying to get somewhere and not really knowing how to establish a foothold there. Another thing is not solo, but soft skills and communication skills. As an introvert, I always had a feeling that I had a great deficit in that area. And what I can recommend if someone feels the similar way is finding an organization in a city that you live in that does improv training. So training for people who want to do improvisational theater. It is there to train the whole theater thing, but it also teaches quick thinking on your feet, clear communication, and improves initiative. So in Poland, they mostly work in Polish language, and even if I am like a kinda advanced Polish speaker at this point, it's still extremely challenging, but the cringe is worth it. So another thing is taking care of the tax situation, because one of the worst things that can happen as you are building your portfolio is getting a scary-looking letter from the tax company from your own country requiring to explain yourself in regard to your income and fiscal residency. So to avoid that, make sure to have tax and legal things covered in both your home country and the new country. So we are almost at the end. For the reminder, leveldesign.org. This is a great reference for any level designer at any stage of their career. It really helped me as I was starting out, and I really highly recommend it. So this covers what I wanted to say today. In conclusion, getting into level design in AAA in Poland as a foreigner with no experience, this is a really long title, but it is a long game. It's also a co-op game. No one wants to talk to you, but it's up to you to make it a co-op game, kinda. It's also confusing, it's scary and lonely, it's hard. And it completely changed me. And I would do it all over again. So thank you for today. Now it's time for questions and answers.
Živio. I have a question about, do you have any tips for finding mentors in the AAA industry here?
Okay. Finding mentors. So having a portfolio, it's really imperative to have a portfolio because that's basically where they can see that this is something that they can, so that you as a potential specialist is something to invest into. So this is where to start, and then after that, places like Digital Dragons games industry conference. I was even trying, for example, Paris Games Conference. I don't know how I got there, but I did. And like as an introvert, I was always like, who do I talk to? But as we have that portfolio, we have something to talk about. So it's not just like small talk. If, for example, I was very fearful of small talk, but as I had that, I suddenly had something to talk about, and that's kind of the way to go. So having a portfolio and conferences, it's best to reach out to people directly. So on conferences like this. But I've also heard of cases where people were just like really intensely talking to potential mentors, for example, on LinkedIn. They just called, reached out, and it somehow worked out.
I just wanted to ask if you already got, you know, your very own person that is staring at you with your picture on the phone and, you know, trying to reach out in this weird way.
No, I've had some requests, but like in my case, I will be honest. I unfortunately ghosted that person. Yes, I am that type of a bastard. But I will be reaching back out to them. The thing is, we are busy. Sometimes we have moments like that in life that just other things can't work out. And this is something that I'm like noticing. It's because the same thing was happening to me. So I was reaching out to people. There was a conversation, and then people just dropped out. And then perhaps sometime later, like half a year, they reached out again. So, and this is the point about it. It's not just like having one guy that we are talking to. It's best to like have a network of people. But I will not do that again, I promise. So if someone does wish to reach out, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I will try my best not to ghost you. Yes. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.